Hello, this is Chris Allen. I want to talk today about polygonal walls, such as at Saxay 11, which is in the picture just above here. And I need to discuss how they were built, or at least my ideas on how they were built. A lot of people will disagree with my ideas, but that's neither here nor there. In this slide, this is from Saxay Room 1, showing a corner section, and on the section is one particular stone which is pictured here, and it seems to go right around the corner. That particular stone is one of many that go around a corner like that, and it's my view that to carve a stone which turns a corner in that way is extremely difficult and very time consuming. So that's one of the reasons why I think these stones were not carved, but they were molded. And this one was molded in place, as were all the others. This particular stone has an area which looks pretty strange, but it looks exactly like what you will get when casting concrete and not removing all of the air bubbles. You get something along this line, and this is exactly what I see here. Is it looks like an air bubble which formed part of a casting. This is the same picture as at the very start, and what's interesting about this picture is some of these scoop marks in that area, also in that area, and also in that area, and possibly even a little bit in this area. Now these scoop marks look as though they were made whilst the geopolymer mixture was still at least partially fluid, and you cannot, I don't think you can get a scoop mark like this in a carved stone. So that's why I think these stones were not carved, they were actually molded into place, which of course explains why we get such tight-fitting joints as in there and there. Obviously, if you mold them into place, they're going to match exactly with the adjoining stone. There's no, you won't have any problems about how to match the faces up. This is a doorway at Ollanta Tambo. Several blocks have nubs on the lower parts. I'd like to point them out there, 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 and there, and there, and a few others as well. But the point about these nubs is that I think these blocks, like this one here, and the one next to it, were not part of the original structure. They possibly had a flaw in them, and they decided to remove the blocks and recast them. Now, since for instance you cannot add the geopolymer mixture from the top, as in there, into this to form this block, they then used a bladder with an entry point at the bottom. They then used, as you could see there and there's two entry points on that block, and they then used an injection molding process in order to get the blocks into place and formed exactly as they want them to be formed. That explains why some blocks have nubs and others don't. Like, for instance, this block doesn't have any nubs on it. That one has two nubs, that one has a nub, this one appears to have a nub, as is that one and that one. Now, these are blocks that were, I think, replaced after the original casting. This wall is from Japan, the Edo Castle in Japan, and it's built it seems to be built using a similar system to the system in Peru. It's just finished nicely, and it looks a lot neater than the ones in Peru do. What one should bear in mind is that these stones are not that small. I would just like to point out here these smaller stones like this one and that one and some of these others. Those appear to be small stones in the wall, but I think they probably weigh 1.5 to 2 tons. And these bigger ones, as this one here, probably weighs in excess of 10 tons. Of course, I don't have any specific information about this. I'm just guessing really, but I don't think I'm too far wrong about it. This wall is from Delphi in Greece, and is one of many such walls in Greece as well as in many other countries. I would suggest that all of these walls use a similar technology to what was used in Peru and other areas of South America. One can see there are a few broken stones, as you will notice in this area, and possibly this one, and that area, as well as down in this area. Now, something must have caused these stones to break. I'm not quite sure what it might have been, I can guess. And in this area, from there all the way down, including that area, there's a gap which I'm pretty sure was not there originally. So I'm guessing that this wall survived an earthquake, or maybe more than one earthquake, I don't know. But that would be my guess, and what's happened here is the ground beneath the wall has shifted slightly, and that is what's created the gap in this area. And at the same time, it's put a lot of pressure on these stones that are broken. Other than that, the wall seems to have survived pretty well. So one must say that the technology is very earthquake proof, you might say. Now, this is from the Valley Temple of Khafre in Egypt, and you can see what all of these blocks look like at the corner. All of them seem to go around the corner. See, all of them all the way up appear to incorporate the corner within the block itself. And this must be quite a tricky business, carving such a block. So I'm guessing that these blocks were also molded, and they were molded to incorporate corners, and that would make a lot more sense to me than to actually carve such a block. Also, what's interesting at the Valley Temple in Kafre, I can't find a decent illustration of it, but there are areas where the blocks on the one side are the reverse of the blocks on the other side of I think there's a doorway or corridor which has this even in that same area there are also blocks that actually go around corners. But to carve blocks identical from one side to the other would surely be quite a difficult task to achieve, but if you're molding blocks, it'd be relatively simple. This is the wall at Ollantaytambo, and it's the famous Temple of the Sun 6 monoliths. Now, on this wall also you can see in this area, on this stone, you can see extensive scoop marks on it. It looks exactly like the other scoop marks on the other walls at Saxe-Woman. And this block also, see there's a long scoop mark going up there and another one going up here. This also looks like the molds were removed too quickly and the mixture, the geopolymer mixture started to sag, and they then used an implement to push it back into place, and that's what caused those scoop marks. Also, if you look at this particular area, there's a pattern on the block. There's another repeated there and repeated there. I would say that the molding board that was used to mold this block had that pattern imprinted on it, and that's why it's come through onto this block. So I can't see that they would carve such patterns in. It doesn't look like it's symmetrical at all. It's totally pointless if it was carved, and I don't think they were inclined to do work that was pointless. So it's my feeling that these particular blocks were definitely cast, and they weren't carved. These are quite enormous blocks. I mean, I'm not sure what they weigh, but it's in the area of 20 to 30 tons each, I think. To carve such a block must be very, very difficult. And then why have these strange patterns on just a small area of it? And also the scoop marks don't make sense if you regard them as having been carved. In addition, on these blocks, you'll notice there are these, what you might call separation strips or dividing strips, whatever you want to call them. There are 5 of them. Each of them has nubs, as in this one down there. There's another one there, and another one there. And each of them has these nubs. Now I think what's happening here is that these strips were made using also the injection molding process. The 2 adjoining blocks were already in place with a gap in between, and then they used an injection molding process to mold this strip in between. And the equipment that they used, if you started at the bottom, you pumped it until the material got to that level, then you changed it, fitted it, and started pumping from that level, then you're going up to that level. I'm just showing my own laser pointer here. It's from there, that was where they would have started. They would have pumped it up to there, and from there they pump it again, they change it and they pump it up to there, and from there all the way to the top. By using this method, they would not have needed such a high pressure, whereas if they pumped everything from this point all the way to the top, your pressure requirements would have been much higher than if you pump from that area to that area and then up to the top. That makes much more sense. So I think this is what actually happened with them. So you can see here it starts at the bottom. They would have started pumping it in from there, pumping it up to that area, and then up to that area, then up to that area, and from there up to the top. Now this is how these strips were made. To carve such individual strips like this would be extremely difficult, and before fitting, this strips would also be extremely fragile, so it doesn't make sense that they would carve such dividing strips in stone and then fitted them. So I'm pretty sure they must have been molded, injection molded into place. That makes a lot more sense than to have them carve these strips afterwards, because as I say, this such a long narrow strip of rock would be incredibly fragile and would break very, very easily. So I don't think they used that method at all. This is what is called the Say-White monolith of Peru, and as you can see, there are a lot of absolutely crazy looking carvings on the top half of it, but what I want to draw your attention to is the bottom half of it, from this area all the way around to that area. If you look at it, you can see this doesn't appear to be a natural stone. In fact, what it looks like to me, it looks like this was a geopolymer that was contained within some sort of a bag, and I'm guessing that the geopolymer that was contained within this bag had started to harden, and it was no longer fluid, and they needed it to be fluid in order to cast the blocks of, for instance, the Polygonalwalls. And because it's no longer fluid, they discarded the whole batch. And that's what this looks like. It looks like it was discarded even while still being contained within the bag. And then what happened is a lot of children came along and had a lot of fun carving all sorts of weird shapes in the one might say clay-like, it would have been something like Play-Doh. It would have been easy to carve and easy to mold, and you can see in various areas, like this area here looks like a turtle head that's been molded into there. And in some places there appear to be steps like that there, but it's all a crazy mixture of all sorts of things. My guess is that there were probably in the area of around 10 to 20 children, each one doing their own thing, and that is why it looks so absolutely crazy. And I am convinced that this must have been a batch of geopolymer that was discarded. This is also the Say-White stone, just a close-up and a possibly different angle, but you can still see what we're talking about. You just get a closer view of it, and you can see the rope mark that goes around it. all the way around. It's not a straight line or anything like that. It's just a line that goes across. This seems to have been the line I'm talking about, of course, is this one here. You can also see that there's a gouge in here that seems to have been done at a later stage. But all of these carvings, steps up there, there's no form or structure to it. It's all, in Afrikaans they have a saying which is called deur mekaar. The direct translation into English would be through each other. So you might say that this, all the carving on top, on the top area, that's from there all the way around to there, could be through each other. And it is my view that there was no point to this carving. This was actually more of a playground for children than anything else. This again is another view of the same Say-White monolith, and in this picture it looks even more like a bag of clay that kids have been playing with. Admittedly, it's a very big bag of Play-Doh. Once you see this for what it is, it's hard not to laugh when you hear the official explanation for it. Of course, the official explanation wanders into experimental irrigations, things like, and all sorts of stories like that. All of which is most interesting. Again, you can see on this one too the line, which I think is formed by a rope within the bag that contained it. And in this area, see, that looks like the head of a turtle, which somebody decided to form on this side. But my view is still, looking at this thing and what the bottom half of it looks like, I'm pretty certain that this was a bag of geopolymer which was abandoned because it had started to harden already. This is another monolith similar to the Say-White stone. It also has the look of an abandoned piece of Play-Doh. But this one, you can see there's a little bit more sense to its. It looks like they carved a seat into there and some steps up there. Almost looks as though somebody was practicing how to make these things on this particular piece of rejected or abandoned geopolymer. They would have done this before it hardened. There are some quite curious features, like this channel which runs down this way and ends up in this curious little hole there, and it splits here and it ends up in a curious little hole there, which almost suggests that this was made for a particular purpose, but I don't think so. I think this is also a piece of abandoned geopolymer which was then used to practice on. And compared to the Say-White stone, carving on this stone looks quite professional. This slide shows the Pyramid of Menkaure on Giza Plateau in Egypt, and as you can see, there is granite casing stones all along the bottom level. I think originally they were up to about a level around about this area, but a lot of them have been either taken off or fallen off, I'm not sure which. But what's interesting here is you can see that the same sort of process must have been used to put in these casing stones. What looks like nubs on that one and that one, and there are others, but you can't see them so too good in this picture. It's also interesting is that the area around the entrance, that's this area here, the stones have been cut or smoothed off or whatever, just around the entrance area. And there is also an area down one side which has also been similarly smoothed off, which is a bit strange considering the original pyramid boulders were actually very meticulous about everything they did. It's strange that they should have a situation where only the area around the entrance, as well as another area around the side, which has been finished, as you might say. You can, if in a close-up picture, you'll see that some of the blocks, it's like they drew a line and they decided they're going to finish inside of that line. But some of the blocks are partially finished, and the other half of them, like that piece sticking out there, is actually part of this block, and it's that's this block I'm talking about here. And the piece I'm talking about is right at the end, and this is all one block from there to there. So why did they leave the piece of a block remaining there? It's all very strange. It looks like somebody got lazy and didn't want to finish the job properly. And the ancient people who built these pyramids, they were not lazy, and they were very meticulous about how they worked. So I actually think that there's a strong possibility that these casing stones are not original. They were fitted afterwards by somebody trying to repair it or something like that, and I don't think these are the original casing stones. I sort of suspect that it probably also used limestone casing stones, and for some reason or other they were taken off or stolen, whatever. I'm not sure how you're going to put that, but then they would try to replace them with granite, and the granites that they used was also, to my mind, in a form of a geopolymer, and that is why you get nubs, as in that stone and that stone, possibly several others. And those stones were done after the layer above it had already been formed, so they could not fill them from the top, so they filled them using the injection molding process from the bottom or the side, you might say, and that's how those stones were formed. But that is just my opinion. That is the end of this video, and I hope you found this interesting. I know there are very many people who are going to say this is crazy, it cannot be, but I don't think it's that crazy. And if anybody looks closely at it, you've got to admit there is some evidence to support the fact that they did use a geopolymer in all of these things that I've been discussing. Anyway, bye for now.